What's up, everybody? So, coming to you today with a video of probably the most common question that you see asked in streams by newer players. Typically, they revolve around what lures do I buy for this place, for that place, what colors do I buy. If you're new to the game and you're getting into the game, what I kind of compiled was a list of 10 of the lures that I feel, if your budget's really limited, here's some of the most commonly used currently in the game. So this is as of March. So if you're watching this and there's a Steam release, there may be newer lures that are out. I'll go back and update the video. But until there's a major release of lures, I don't really anticipate this changing. So keep in mind that these lures and what I'm going to recommend you is based off my personal experience. So to give you an idea, currently in my skill tree, I have no points in spoons or spinners. And I think spoons and spinners currently are, I would say spoons especially, are the best lure in the game, hands down, for versatility. Now that's based off the species that are targeting spoons and going after spoons in the game right now. So that's currently what I feel is the best. Second best are probably Jigs, once you can get to Sura and fish for Volgazander. And then third, I would say Wobblers. Wobblers have taken a little bit of a back seat, but if you aren't at Sura yet, Wobblers are your second best bet for things like, in the deeper holes in Volkov for some of the salmon. You will also get catfish, though. In Kaori for lake trout, Kaori char, the funky minnows for pike, the funky minnows and some of the other Terminators are also really good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of break down what I feel are the best, and this is based off my experience. The only points currently that I'm running in my spinning tree are jigging, and I will put some in spoons. I'm waiting for the next patch to drop to see if there's new wobblers, because that would change my decision. So to give you an idea, that should tell you that even without having points in spoons, I still see them as the best lure in the game. So we'll start, and here we go. The Hunter 1 series I find right now is probably the most utilized, the most popular, and probably the best as far as catching a wide variety of species. If you can only afford one lure, this is probably the one to buy. Now keep in mind I'm looking at these in Kaori, so the shops are going to be pretty expensive in comparison to where else you can get them. If you can only buy 2 colors or 3 colors, these 3 are the ones I would buy. And if I can only buy one, this is the color I'm buying. Again, guys, this is built off of personal experience, nothing else. There is some debate onto if color matters. It seems to absolutely matter, but how much or how consistent, there's too many variables to be able to tell. So if you could only pick one of the Hunters, it's the Hunter 1 in the orange color, I feel, which is the Hunter 1003. Especially for Kaori and Volkov, they're extremely strong. I don't think they're as good on Sura, personally. That's just from my personal experience. So that is the one I'm recommending. Primarily Kaori and Volkov, and you kind of know the species, but salmon especially, char, Kaori char, lake trout, pike, any of those will take the bait. Moving on to the next one. And these really aren't in any particular order, although I do feel the Hunter 1 is probably the best lure in the game. If you can only buy one, I wanted to start with that because I do feel it's probably the best. From there, I find the Terminator 10s are probably, again, for Kaori and Volkov, the best wobbler that are in the game right now. A little bit better than a Funky Minnow, I feel, but we'll talk about that one next. So if you can only get one color, I would be torn between these two. The number 1 and the number 3, both I feel have done pretty well for me. I also find the number 2 works pretty well. So for me, I tend to stick to the more realistic colors, and it seems to pay off. So those are probably 2 of the better ones. Would be one of the perch colors either way. But people catch fish on a variety of the colors, so I'm more recommending the lure, which would be the Terminator SD10. Moving on from there, we have the Funky Minnow. Again, one of the most popular baits in the game. The S11 is probably, it was until the Hunters came out, the most popular lure in the game. So I'm looking at the S11. This is a little different than the S15. So the S11 I find is more effective than the S15. However, the S15 I think catches bigger fish just way less often. So if you're targeting some of the bigger pike, I would say go after the S15 or the F15. The only difference is S is sinking, F is floating. This is probably the color I use most often, but there's a lot of other colors. The 8s are popular. The 2's probably my second favorite color here. And then this is the color I use for pike down at 71-102 in that little corner. I will use either the floating or sinking. In that color there, I feel it produces pretty well. So that's the Funky Minnow. From there, really, this one I think is underrated. So if you look at the leaderboards, the slim shots, and depending on the one you want to choose, but this color here tends to produce really well, especially if you look at the leaderboards. So if you can't afford some of those more expensive lures, this one can produce. I think the slim shot primarily is better at Kaori than any other place. You can use them at the Winding River, you can use them at a variety of places, but typically you're going to do better, I think, on Kaori with the slim shots. I've caught Kaori char on them probably more than any other lure I've had. Also lake trout and pike take them pretty consistently. As far as I guess I should go back, and that kind of wraps up the slim shot, but if we go back and kind of look at the Terminators, the Wobblers, the Terminators are going to do better in deeper holes and deeper rivers and areas where there's pockets. The Funky Minnows are going to do better consistently because they don't go nearly as deep. I mean, if you see the S11s go down to 3 feet, 3.5 feet maybe, whereas these are going down, probably 18 to 20, right around there. So big difference, but primarily I'm going to use this in deeper water and deeper holes. So you're much more likely to get a catfish on the Terminator than you are the Funky Minnow, just for that reason. So in going back and looking at some other spoons, this one is really popular. The Vico 25. This color I feel produces really well for me. This color as well. And on the 25, especially for char, Kaori, I catch more char on this spoon than I probably do any others when the fish are there. When the fish aren't there, I catch absolutely nothing. So it's almost like I'm catching char. I might get a few perch, maybe a lake trout, but it's like all or nothing. I'll get char on it or I won't catch anything at all. So that's just my personal experience. It's not to say that that's true. It's not true. There's too many variables to be able to give you a consistent read on what the best lures are, but these are definitely some I'd recommend. These two colors I think work really well, and I've had some success with this one as well as this one. Again, perch color, there's kind of a theme there. So that's one. If you're fishing Kaori, that's where I've had the most luck, is Kaori with these lures. I haven't had a ton of luck on Volkov with them, and primarily I'm fishing. When I'm fishing Kaori, I'm casting, I'm not trolling. So that should also give you an indicator there. From there, we'll talk about one of the most popular lures in the game, and this one is, I mean, it's pretty consistent the way it produces. So you have the Hypnotic series lures. The most popular, this is probably the most popular here, in the Hypnotic 20, which is, again, for trolling or casting on Kaori, does really well. I do really well with this lure casting for salmon in Volkov. In Sura, I haven't had a ton of luck with spoons. I'm catching more fish on the Terminators, probably due to some of the deep holes that I'm fishing. But I know they still produce. It's just a matter of how consistent have they been. So as far as colors here, this color, this orange color, this orange color, I mean, you see people catch huge Kaori. We're catching huge Kaori char on the Russian servers with this one. Truthfully, guys, I think almost all these baits produce at one time or another. I've had pretty good luck with the green ones in the Winding Rivulet, which these are one of the first lures I had at Winding Rivulet, and caught pike, I caught char, I caught chub, a wide variety of species with the green ones at the Winding Rivulet. As far as the other ones, if I had to pick one to fish on Kaori, I'm picking the red one. And, at all times of the day, doesn't really matter. This one tends to produce. I find it produces more on sunny days than cloudy days, but that's, again, just my experience. So moving on to the next one, I want to talk about really the only spinner that I put on the list, and then we'll talk about some jigs. So in looking at spinners, they're not used very often, but I'll tell you when I use them, because I don't like to use them at any other time. But at night on Kuori, if you can't catch burbot on the island, put on this one, or this one. I personally would recommend this. And put on the, I guess you'd call it the Aquila 4 gram, and you can troll at night, and at least you'll get something. But there's Vendus, there's Grayling that'll take it pretty consistently. This is one of the best baits I found if you truthfully want to target Vendus. I don't know why you'd want to do that, but maybe you need a trophy. This bait works pretty well. And the same thing for Grayling. I catch Grayling pretty consistently on that one. So I'm not going to recommend any of the other colors because I only typically use this color, and I only throw spinners at night when everything else is dead. So try this one. I've only really had success with it on Kuori. I don't really fish any other spinners any place else because I feel that I've tried spinner after spinner after spinner, and they just don't produce like the spoons do. So for whatever reason, that's been my experience, but I did want to put one on the list because of the cost and the affordability. If I could do it all over again, I wouldn't buy any other spinner but this one. And I would only really use it on Kuori. Again, that's my personal experience, depending on, maybe you guys have some, and we'll talk about that at the end so that you can express what works for you, maybe help some other people. So we're going to talk about jigs for the last 3. So if we look at jigs, there's a wide variety of jigs that are here. I'm going to talk about the 3 that tend to produce the most for me, and this is going across Sura, the Winding Rivulet, and Kuori. So we'll start with the Maggot, which works best in my opinion in Kuori and Sura. In Kuori, I catch char with this. It is pretty rare to get char, but I catch char, lake trout, obviously perch, pike. The colors probably that I throw most are chartreuse, and then brown and black at nighttime. When all the other fishing is quiet, I'll throw brown and black at nighttime. White for me also works well on cloudy days there. But if I had to pick one, I'm probably picking brown or black because I'm tending to throw more at night at Kuori, because during the day I fish more with spoons. That's just what I do and how I prefer to fish. Now if I'm fishing on Sura, I'll throw white on Sura. And I'll throw that almost all day long, white and yellow. So that kind of breaks down the Maggot. If you're throwing it on the Winding River, I find that in the Winding River, I'll catch primarily perch with this. I don't get a lot of pike. It's mostly perch. Now, in Sura, if I throw this bait, especially the white one, I tend to catch a lot of Zander and Volga Zander if they're there. If the Volga Zander and Zander are not there, I will not catch anything. So, to give you some context, if you're throwing this on Sura you don't get 1 in 5 or 10 casts, move, because the fish probably aren't there. Alright, so moving on to the next one. The next one is the tiny fish. So this is primarily, I do well with this primarily in Sura. And in Sura, what happens is I will throw the gray colors when it's cloudy and any of these, and I'll look for primarily perch and Zander. Obviously the Volga Zander as well, but I will get more perch on this one, and I'm not truthfully targeting perch, but that's what you're going to end up getting. More looking for Zander and Volga Zander. Now I don't catch as many Zander with this, but I find that the Zander I catch are bigger. Not necessarily for the Volga Zander, but for the Zander are bigger when they strike these baits for whatever reason. So colors, any of the gray patterns between the 4 and an 8, it doesn't seem to make a difference. Again, that's personally my opinion on the colors. I mean, you may do well with a bunch of other colors. I've caught fish with some of the other colors, but just consistently in Sura, that's one of the ones that works well for me. This also works well in Winding Rivulet as well. So again, mostly for perch, but if you're a low-level player, this is a pretty mediocre priced bait you can afford in order to catch some more fish. So going away from here, let's take a look at the Provoker. So this Provoker in yellow right here is probably one of the best jigs in the game for going across all 3 of those areas. I catch fish on Sura, I catch fish in Winding Rivulet, I catch a lot of fish in Kaori on it. Jigging from the island, jigging the deep holes, jigging over near the rocks on the opposite side, down near where the pike are. This bait's really consistent, especially in yellow. Chartreuse also does pretty well. You've got the lime green and black one here that I do pretty well with. And then even on like the blue one I do well with. I don't throw brown a lot. I don't throw these colors here a lot. But all the yellow-ish ones, and then I'd say the gray and the blue there, I catch a lot of fish on. Again, I have a lot of points in jigging, and I have a jigging rod specifically for this. So that maybe, if you don't have the same success, maybe that's tied to it. Again, I don't know the numbers behind it, so there's too many variables to say. But if we look at this bait overall, is probably, I think, is the best jig in the game across all 3 lakes. So I'm going to talk about one more, and it's not available in the shop. So if you have somebody who has lure crafting, hopefully you have someone who has lure crafting and who help you out. This foam rubber fish is awesome. Now, it's only awesome in a few places, so you can see how much damage this one has taken. This is all from fishing in Sura in the deeper holes, and only on this bait. When this bait works, the yellow one especially, but some of the other colors work as well. When this is on, you can catch so many Zander and Volga Zander. When it's not, the fish probably aren't there. But it seems that this bait seems to do really well, and if the Zander are there, I'll catch a ton of fish. If the Zander are not there, I won't catch anything. This is my favorite bait for Sura. When I put out 2 rods, you know, and I'm feeder fishing for sturgeon or sterlet or whatever, I'll put a rod out on a jig. Now, I will catch catfish with this, which sucks. Any jigs, really, you'll catch catfish with in Sura. But across Sura overall, I think it's the only lure I really throw now when I'm feeder fishing, because I'm trying to fish the deep holes. So that's not available in the shop, but just FYI, if you have somebody who can make you some, I do feel that's a really, really good bait. I don't feel it's worth leveling up your lure skill to 10 to 15%, whatever it might be, in order to get it. So don't go out and do that. Please don't do that. It's not worth the investment. But find somebody who can make one for you, send them the materials, and you should be good to go. So last couple of things I want to talk about are colors. So everyone seems to have a preference, but I tend to fish on cloudy days a white or a gray. On nighttime, if I'm fishing nighttime at all, it's usually I'm fishing darker colors, so purple, black, browns, I'll typically fish at night. And then I usually, at Kaori, I'll stick to more realistic patterns during the day when it's clear, like the perch type patterns. Like this one is one I'd throw on a clear day. I'd throw this on a clear day. I'd probably throw anything that looks like a perch in a spoon, same thing, on a clear day. Like these on a clear day. The ones that look like they have, you know, more natural patterns, I'm throwing those on clear days. On cloudy days, I'll typically throw brighter colors during the daytime. That's just my experience and what I use. You guys ask these things all the time, and it was more efficient for me to make a video when I get the question on Twitch and send you guys to it, because it's a long, drawn-out explanation on what I feel some of the best baits are. So hopefully that helps you. I do want to throw in one honorable mention, and that's the Hypnotic. This year I won't talk a lot about it, but on Kaori sometimes I can catch a ton of fish on these 2 patterns here. Mostly on clear days, but that's a really, really good bait. It also works really well on Volkov for me. So, but if you only have a limited budget, and I had to direct you to one bait right now, the Hunter Spoon that we talked about in the beginning, the orange one, is one of the ones. Probably a funky minnow for Kaori when you first get there, especially if you're on a limited budget. You're probably starting there. And on the jigs, I'd say throw this Provoker. This is probably the 2nd or 3rd Provoker I've gone through in this color. So hopefully that helps you guys. Thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitch. And thanks to everybody else who helped with some of the data collection for this. So Crossy, Hendrix, G, thank you guys all for helping. Crank, thanks for getting some more information and helping me test across the wide variety of lures, presentation, species, and lakes. So Thanks very much. I will see you guys in the next video.